My name is Sarah, and I'm 35 years old. I'm a divorced mom raising my incredible 12-year-old son, Jake, on my own. My older brother Marcus and I have always been tight, or so I thought. When his engagement party invitation arrived last Tuesday, Jake and I were over the moon. But my excitement crashed when I read the small print at the bottom. Adults only celebration. No children under 16 permitted. My heart sank. Jake wasn't just any kid. He was Marcus's nephew, the boy my brother had helped raise after my messy divorce 3 years ago. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you've ever felt betrayed by family who should have your back. Growing up in Phoenix, Marcus and I were inseparable despite our 4-year age gap. Our parents ran a small bakery working dawn to dusk every day. As the older sibling, Marcus naturally became my protector. He walked me to school, helped with my homework, and scared away bullies who dared mess with his little sister. I'll never forget when I was 8 and Marcus was 12. Some kids at the playground were making fun of my thick glasses and calling me Four Eyes. Marcus appeared out of nowhere, stood between them and me, and said, "My sister is the smartest kid in this school. Pick on someone your own size, like me." Those bullies never bothered me again. Marcus was there for every milestone. My first school dance, my graduation, my wedding to Tom when I was on, he stood as my man of honor because, honestly, no one else understood me like he did. When Jake was born, Marcus was the second person to hold him after Tom. The look of pure joy on his face as he cradled his tiny nephew is burned into my memory forever. Then everything changed when I turned 29. Tom started staying late at work, becoming distant and cold. I found text messages to his secretary that shattered my world. The divorce was brutal. Tom moved to Seattle with his new girlfriend, sending sporadic child support checks and calling Jake maybe twice a month. Those first 2 years as a single mom nearly broke me. I worked at a dental office during the day and cleaned offices at night just to keep our small apartment. Some nights I cried in my car after Jake fell asleep, wondering how I'd pay for his school clothes or if we'd have to move again. Marcus became our lifeline. He watched Jake every weekend so I could work extra shifts. He helped with groceries when money was tight and even covered our car repair when the transmission died. More than that, he became the father figure Jake desperately needed. Marcus taught Jake how to throw a football, helped him with math homework, and took him camping every summer. They had Saturday morning pancake traditions that lasted for hours, Jake giggling as Marcus flipped pancakes higher and higher. For Jake's 10th birthday, Marcus surprised him with a bike and taught him to ride in our apartment complex parking lot, running alongside him for hours until Jake could do it alone. "Uncle Marcus is the coolest," Jake would tell his friends constantly. "He knows everything about baseball and he makes the best grilled cheese sandwiches in the world." Everything shifted 8 months ago when Marcus met Victoria at his law firm's holiday party. Victoria came from serious money. Her father owned half the office buildings downtown. She lived in a penthouse, drove a Tesla, and moved in social circles that made our middle-class background feel suddenly inadequate. At first, I was thrilled Marcus found someone who made him happy. He deserved love after focusing so much on helping Jake and me rebuild our lives. But gradually, I noticed changes that worried me. Marcus started canceling our family dinners, claiming Victoria had prior commitments that required his attendance. The camping trips with Jake stopped. When I asked about it, Marcus said Victoria thought camping was unsanitary and primitive. His wardrobe transformed from casual jeans and polo shirts to expensive suits even on weekends. He traded his reliable Honda for a luxury BMW that Victoria said better reflected his status as a successful attorney. Most painful was watching Jake's confusion as his beloved uncle became increasingly unavailable. "Why doesn't Uncle Marcus want to hang out anymore?" Jake asked after Marcus missed his school play, something he'd never done before. I made excuses about Marcus being busy with work and his new relationship, never wanting to damage Jake's image of the man who'd been his hero. But inside, I was furious watching my brother slowly abandon the nephew who worshipped him. The engagement announcement came via a formal card that arrived by courier. Not a phone call or family gathering, a formal announcement like we were distant acquaintances. Victoria had clearly taken charge of their social calendar, and we weren't part of her vision for their future. When the party invitation arrived with its cruel exclusion of children, I knew this wasn't just about one event. This was Victoria establishing the rules for their new life together, a life that had no room for a 12-year-old boy who had considered Marcus his second father. I stared at that invitation for an hour, my hands shaking with anger and heartbreak. How could my brother allow this? How could he exclude Jake from celebrating his engagement when Jake had been such an important part of his life? That night, I made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, I called Marcus while Jake was at school. My hands trembled as I dialed his number, hoping this was all a misunderstanding. Maybe Victoria had sent the invitations without consulting him. Maybe he didn't realize Jake was excluded. Sarah, perfect timing, Marcus answered cheerfully. Did you get our invitation? Victoria outdid herself with the design. I did get it, I said carefully. Marcus, I need to ask you something. Jake's name isn't on the invitation. Was that an oversight? The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice had changed completely. About that, Victoria and I decided to make this an adults-only celebration. You know how these upscale events can be. Kids don't really fit the atmosphere we're going for. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Marcus, this is Jake we're talking about, your nephew. The kid you taught to ride a bike, remember? Of course I remember, he said, but his tone was defensive now. Look, Sarah, this isn't personal. Victoria's family is hosting this at their country club. They have strict policies about children at evening events. The guest list includes important business contacts and high-profile clients. Jake is 12, not 2. I argued, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. He knows how to behave at formal events. He's been to weddings before. He wouldn't embarrass you. Marcus sighed heavily. It's not about embarrassment. It's about appropriateness. Victoria's parents are spending a fortune on this party. The venue serves alcohol, there's dancing until midnight, and frankly, the conversation topics aren't suitable for children. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Since when do you care more about Victoria's parents' money than your own family? Jake adores you, Marcus. He's been talking about this party for weeks, planning what suit to wear. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Marcus snapped. Jake will understand. Kids are resilient. We can do something special with him another time. Like when, I challenged. You've canceled the last 3 family dinners. You missed his school play last month. You haven't taken him camping in 8 months. When exactly are you planning this special time? Another long pause. In the background, I heard Victoria's voice, though I couldn't make out the words. When Marcus came back on the line, his tone was colder than I'd ever heard it. Sarah, I'm building a life with Victoria now. That means making certain adjustments. I can't always prioritize the same things I used to. Jake needs to understand that Uncle Marcus has grown-up responsibilities. Grown-up responsibilities? I repeated, my voice cracking. What about your responsibility to the nephew who thinks you hung the moon? What about loyalty to family? Family is important, Marcus said stiffly. But so is my future with Victoria. Her family has certain expectations about social events and appropriate guest lists. I have to respect that. I felt tears burning my eyes. So what you're telling me is that Victoria's family's opinions matter more than Jake's feelings. I'm telling you that you need to help Jake understand that some events are for adults only. Period. The invitation is for you and a guest, meaning an adult guest. I hope you'll respect our decision. Before I could respond, Victoria's voice came clearly through the phone. Marcus, we're going to be late for brunch with my parents. I have to go, Marcus said quickly. We can discuss this more later, but the decision is final. I hope to see you there, Sarah. The line went dead. I sat in my kitchen, staring at my phone in disbelief. This wasn't the brother I knew. This wasn't the man who used to tell Jake bedtime stories about brave nights and who cried when Jake scored his first soccer goal. When Jake came home from school that afternoon, he was bubbling with excitement. Mom, I drew a picture of Uncle Marcus and me at his party. Want to see? The crayon drawing showed 2 stick figures in suits, one tall and one short, both with huge smiles. At the top, Jake had written, "Me and Uncle Marcus at his engagement party," in his careful handwriting. My heart shattered. How could I tell this sweet boy that his hero didn't want him there? Jake, honey, we need to talk about Uncle Marcus's party. His face fell instantly. Kids have incredible intuition about bad news. What's wrong? Are we not going? I knelt down to his eye level, choosing my words carefully. Uncle Marcus and Victoria have decided to make their party adults only. That means no kids can come. Jake's eyes widened in confusion. But I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm 12 and I'm family. I know, sweetheart, I know. Did I do something wrong? Jake's voice was barely a whisper. Is Uncle Marcus mad at me? No, baby, this has nothing to do with you. This is about adult decisions that don't make much sense to me either. Jake was quiet for a long moment, processing this rejection from the person he admired most. But I already picked out my suit. The blue one from Christmas. I wanted to look nice for Uncle Marcus. That's when I made my own decision. I pulled Jake into my arms and said, "You know what? If you're not welcome at that party, then I'm not going either." Jake pulled back to look at me. "Really? But it's Uncle Marcus's big day. And you're my son's big heart," I said firmly. "We're a team, Jake. If someone doesn't want both of us, they don't get either of us." For the first time since I'd broken the news, Jake smiled. "Thanks, Mom. But won't Uncle Marcus be sad if you don't come?" "He made his choice," I said, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. "Now I'm making mine." That evening, I called Marcus back. This time, Victoria answered his phone. "Sarah, how lovely to hear from you. Marcus is in the shower. Can I take a message?" "Actually, I'd like to speak with you directly," I said, surprising myself with my boldness. "I wanted to let you know that Jake and I won't be attending your engagement party." There was a pause. "Oh, is Jake feeling unwell?" "No, Victoria, Jake is feeling unwanted. Since you've made it clear that children aren't welcome at your celebration, I've decided that this particular adult chooses not to attend either." Her voice turned icy. "I see, so you're punishing Marcus because we want a sophisticated evening." "I'm showing my son that family loyalty matters more than sophisticated evenings," I replied calmly. "I hope you have a wonderful party." When Marcus called me back 20 minutes later, he was furious. "What the hell, Sarah?" Marcus's voice exploded through the phone. "Victoria just told me you're boycotting our engagement party. Are you seriously going to punish me because I won't break the rules for Jake?" "This isn't about breaking rules," I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. "This is about you forgetting who was there for you before Victoria came along. This is about you abandoning the nephew who worships you." "I'm not abandoning anyone," Marcus shouted. "I'm trying to build a future with the woman I love. That means making mature decisions about appropriate social settings. Jake is a kid. He doesn't belong at an upscale cocktail party with business executives and attorneys. Jake belongs wherever his family is," I shot back. "Or at least he used to. Remember when you told me family comes first? Remember when you said Jake was the best thing that ever happened to our family?" Marcus's voice turned cold and calculated. "People grow up, Sarah. Priorities change. I can't base every decision on what a 12-year-old wants. Victoria and I are building something important here. Her father's firm is considering me for a partnership. These connections matter. More than Jake matters. That's not fair, and you know it." "What's not fair is excluding a child who loves you from celebrating your happiness," I said, my voice breaking. "What's not fair is choosing a woman who makes you ashamed of your own family." "Victoria doesn't make me ashamed of anything," Marcus snapped. "She's helping me become a better version of myself. Maybe if you tried to better yourself instead of wallowing in single motherhood, you'd understand." His words hit like a physical blow. "Excuse me." "You heard me. You're so busy playing the victim that you can't see past your own drama. Victoria comes from a world where people have standards where they don't just accept mediocrity. Maybe it's time you learned something from that." I hung up on him. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. The brother who had once protected me from bullies had just become my biggest bully. Within an hour, my phone started buzzing with calls and texts from family members. Marcus had apparently launched a full campaign to make me the villain in this story. My mom called first. "Sarah, honey, what's this I hear about you causing problems with Marcus's engagement party?" "I'm not causing problems, Mom. I'm standing up for Jake." "But sweetie, it's just one party. Jake will have plenty of other opportunities to spend time with his uncle. You can't expect Marcus to change his entire wedding celebration for one child." "It's not about changing everything," I tried to explain. "It's about including family. Jake isn't some random kid. He's Marcus's nephew." "I understand you're protective of Jake," Mom said gently. "But Marcus is trying to fit into Victoria's world now. Her family has certain expectations. You need to be more flexible." My dad was more direct when he called. "Sarah, stop being so stubborn. Marcus has found a good woman from a respectable family. The least you can do is support him without creating drama." "Creating drama," I repeated. "Dad, they excluded your grandson from a family celebration. Jake is 12. He doesn't need to be at every adult event. When I was his age, children weren't included in grown-up parties. We survived just fine." Even my Aunt Lisa, who I thought would understand, called to lecture me. "Sarah, dear, you're being unreasonable. Victoria's family is very well connected. This party could be important for Marcus's career. You shouldn't let your emotions ruin his opportunities. By evening, I felt completely isolated. Everyone seemed to think I was overreacting, that I should just accept Jake's exclusion and move on. Some even suggested I was jealous of Marcus's success and Victoria's wealth. The only person who seemed to understand was my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who often watched Jake after school. "You did the right thing," she told me when I explained the situation, while picking up Jake from her apartment. "Family should never exclude family. That boy loves his uncle more than anything. For Marcus to throw that away for some fancy party, but it's heartbreaking." That night, I found Jake in his room staring at the drawing he'd made of him and Marcus at the party. He'd crossed out both stick figures with black crayon. "Jake, honey, what happened to your picture?" He looked up at me with eyes that seemed too old for his 12-year-old face. "If Uncle Marcus doesn't want me at his party, then I don't want to be in the picture." I sat on his bed and pulled him close. "I know this hurts. I'm hurt too. Mom, did I do something to make Uncle Marcus not love me anymore?" My heart broke all over again. "Oh, baby, no. Uncle Marcus still loves you. He's just confused right now. Sometimes adults make really bad decisions when they're trying to impress other people. Like how Tommy started ignoring me when he wanted to hang out with the popular kids." "Exactly like that. Except Uncle Marcus is a grown-up, so it's much worse." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Are you really not going to his party because of me?" "I'm not going because if my son isn't welcome somewhere, then neither am I. We're a team, remember?" Jake hugged me tighter. "Thanks, Mom. Even if everyone else thinks we're wrong." "Sometimes doing the right thing means standing alone," I told him. "But we're not really alone. We have each other." The next few days were tough. Marcus sent a series of increasingly angry texts accusing me of being jealous, vindictive, and petty. Victoria even sent me a long message explaining how my emotional manipulation was causing stress during what should be a happy time in their lives. Friends at work were divided. Some thought I was being too harsh, while others admired me for standing up for Jake. But the family pressure was intense. My parents called daily, begging me to reconsider. "Think about Marcus's future," my mother pleaded. "Victoria's father could make or break his career. Don't let your pride ruin your brother's chances." "This isn't about pride," I kept saying. "This is about values. This is about what family means." A week before the party, Marcus showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door to find him standing there in an expensive suit, looking like a stranger. "We need to talk," he said, pushing past me into the living room. Jake was at a friend's house, so we were alone. Marcus looked around our modest apartment with barely concealed disdain, his eyes lingering on our secondhand furniture and Jake's artwork covering the refrigerator. "Nice place," he said, but his tone made it clear he meant the opposite. "What do you want, Marcus?" He turned to face me, his expression hard. "I want you to stop embarrassing me. Victoria's parents think my family is trash because my sister is throwing a tantrum over party invitations. Do you have any idea how that makes me look?" "I couldn't care less how it makes you look," I said honestly. "I care about how it makes Jake feel." "Jake will get over it. Kids are resilient." "You keep saying that, but you're wrong. Jake won't just get over losing his hero. He won't just bounce back from being rejected by the person he loves most." Marcus's face softened for just a moment, and I saw a flicker of the brother I used to know. But then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. "I'm marrying Victoria in 6 months," he said. "Our life together is my priority now. If you can't accept that, then maybe it's better if we take a break from this whole family drama." "A break?" I stared at him in disbelief. "You're willing to cut us off completely?" "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect my future," he said. "Victoria and I deserve to start our marriage without constant family conflict." He headed for the door, then turned back one last time. "The invitation stands. Come to the party, behave like an adult, and we can move forward. Keep acting like a child and don't expect to hear from me again." After he left, I sat in my empty apartment and cried for the brother I'd already lost. The night of Marcus's engagement party arrived with perfect spring weather. Clear skies, gentle breeze, the kind of evening that makes everything look magical. As I sat in my kitchen that Saturday, I felt a deep sadness knowing my brother was celebrating without us. "What are we doing tonight, Mom?" Jake asked, trying to sound casual while doing homework at our dining table. He was making an obvious effort to seem okay, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. I was thinking we could have our own celebration, I said, forcing brightness into my voice. How about we order pizza, watch that new superhero movie you wanted to see, and make Sundays for dessert? Jake's face lit up genuinely for the first time in weeks. Really, even though it's a school night. Tonight's special. We deserve to have some fun. We spent the evening on our couch, sharing a large pepperoni pizza and getting lost in action-packed adventure. For a few hours, we both forgot about the party happening across town. Jake laughed at the funny parts and cheered during the fight scenes, and I felt grateful for this simple happiness. Around 9 o'clock, my phone started buzzing with messages. I tried to ignore it, but they kept coming. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. The first text was from my cousin, Beth. The party is beautiful, but Marcus keeps looking toward the entrance like he's waiting for someone. Another from my aunt. Victoria looks stunning, but something feels off. Marcus seems distracted. Then one from my mom. Honey, Marcus asked me 3 times if you were coming. I think he misses you more than he's admitting. I put my phone away, determined not to let these updates ruin our evening. Jake had fallen asleep against my shoulder during the movie, and I carefully carried him to his room. As I tucked him in, he mumbled sleepily, Thanks for staying home with me, Mom. This was better than any fancy party. The next morning brought a surprise I never expected. My doorbell rang at 8 a.m., and I opened it to find Marcus standing there. But this wasn't the cold suit-wearing stranger from the week before. This was my brother. Rumpled hair, casual clothes, eyes red from what looked like a sleepless night. Can I come in? He asked quietly. I stepped aside wordlessly. Marcus walked to our living room and sat heavily on the couch, his head in his hands. The party was everything Victoria wanted, he said without looking up. Perfect decorations, expensive food, important people everywhere. Her father introduced me to half the partners in the city. It should have been the best night of my life. I sat across from him waiting. But all I could think about was how empty it felt without you and Jake there. I kept looking at the door, hoping you'd changed your mind. Victoria noticed and got angry, said I was being ridiculous for wanting a child at such an important event. Marcus finally looked up at me. Do you know what the worst part was? This little girl, maybe 8 years old, was there with Victoria's cousin. She was running around in a fancy dress, and everyone thought she was adorable. Victoria's mom kept saying how wonderful it was to have young energy at the party. Marcus, I realized they weren't against children at all. He continued, his voice breaking. They were against Jake specifically, against our family. Victoria made it seem like it was about appropriateness, but it was really about not wanting my blue-collar sister and her kid mixing with their wealthy friends. My heart ached seeing my brother's pain, but I needed him to understand the full impact. Jake drew a picture of you two at the party. He was so excited to celebrate with his uncle. When I told him he couldn't come, he crossed out both of you with black crayon. Marcus's face crumpled. Oh God, Sarah, what have I done? You chose someone else's opinion over your family's feelings, I said gently but firmly. You let Victoria and her parents make you ashamed of where you came from. I thought I was building a better life, Marcus whispered. I thought if I could just fit into their world, I'd be successful and happy. But last night, surrounded by all those people who don't really know me, I felt more alone than I've ever felt in my life. Where's Victoria now? Marcus laughed bitterly. Probably planning our wedding with her mother. She's furious that I left the party early, said I was being unprofessional and embarrassing her family. We had a huge fight this morning. Just then, Jake emerged from his bedroom in pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He stopped short when he saw Marcus. Uncle Marcus. Jake's voice was small and certain. Marcus looked at his nephew, really looked at him, for the first time in months. Hey, buddy. What are you doing here? Jake asked, not moving closer. I came to apologize, Marcus said, getting down on one knee so he was at Jake's eye level. I made a terrible mistake, Jake. I hurt you, and I hurt your mom, and I'm so sorry. Jake studied his uncle's face carefully. Are you still marrying Victoria? The question hung in the air. Marcus glanced at me, then back at Jake. I don't know, buddy. I'm figuring some things out right now. She doesn't like me, does she? Jake asked with the brutal honesty of childhood. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. It doesn't matter what she likes. What matters is that I love you, and I should never have let anyone make me forget that. For the first time in months, Jake smiled at his uncle. I missed you. I missed you too, more than you'll ever know. Marcus spent the rest of the morning with us. We made pancakes together, his first time cooking in our kitchen in almost a year. Jake chattered excitedly, telling his uncle about school, his soccer team, and everything Marcus had missed. Mom stood up for me, Jake announced while flipping a pancake. She said if I wasn't welcome at your party, then she wasn't going either. Marcus looked at me with something like wonder. She did. We're a team, Jake said proudly. Mom always has my back. Your mom is the strongest person I know, Marcus said quietly. I forgot that for a while, but I remember now. After breakfast, Marcus asked to speak with me privately. We stepped onto my small balcony while Jake watched cartoons. I don't know how to fix this, Marcus said. Victoria and I think we're done. Her parents made it clear this morning that they consider our family an embarrassment. Victoria agreed with them. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't want my brother to be hurt. Don't be sorry, you were right about everything. I got so caught up in their money and status that I forgot who I really am. I forgot what actually matters. Marcus looked back through the window at Jake, who was laughing at something on TV. He's grown so much. I've missed so much of his life chasing after something that was never real. It's not too late, I said. Jake loves you. He's been waiting for his uncle to come back. What about you? Marcus asked. Can you forgive me for being such an idiot? I hugged my brother for the first time in months. Your family. We fight, we make mistakes, but we don't give up on each other. That afternoon, Marcus officially called off his engagement to Victoria. She was furious, threatening to ruin his career and reputation. But Marcus had finally remembered what was truly worth protecting. The fallout would be messy, but sitting in my living room watching my brother teach Jake a new card game, I knew we'd made it through the worst of it. Family had won. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of drama and healing. Victoria didn't take the breakup well. She called me personally to blame me for poisoning Marcus against her, claiming I was jealous of their relationship and couldn't stand to see my brother happy. You manipulated him with that child, she accused during a particularly nasty phone call. Marcus was finally becoming someone respectable, and you dragged him back down to your level. If being respectable means abandoning family, I replied calmly, then I'm glad Marcus chose to be a good person instead. Victoria hung up on me, but not before threatening to make sure Marcus never worked at another prestigious law firm in the city. True to her word, her father used his connections to block several job opportunities. Marcus lost the potential partnership and had to take a position at a smaller firm for significantly less money. Do you regret it? I asked him one evening as we watched Jake practice soccer. Marcus had started coming to every game, making up for months of missed moments. Are you kidding? Marcus laughed, pointing at Jake, who had just scored a goal and was looking directly at us for approval. Look at his face. That joy, that love. You can't put a price on that. I was an idiot to think money and status could replace this. Our parents took longer to come around. They were devastated about the broken engagement and worried about Marcus's career prospects. Mom especially struggled to understand why he'd walked away from such a good match. Victoria's family has so much to offer, she said during one of our tense family dinners, and now Marcus is starting over at 32 with nothing to show for it. He has his nephew's respect back, I pointed out. He has his integrity, that's not nothing. Dad was more practical in his concerns. Sarah, I understand you were protecting Jake, but did you consider the long-term consequences Marcus could have been set for life? Being set for life doesn't mean much if you lose your soul in the process, Marcus said quietly. Victoria's family wanted to change everything about who I am. They were embarrassed by where I came from, by you two, by Sarah and Jake. That's not love. That's a business transaction. And it took several more family dinners and many honest conversations, but gradually our parents began to see what had really happened. The turning point came when Jake innocently asked his grandmother, "Are you ashamed of me too, Grandma?" Mom's face went white. Of course not, sweetheart. Why would you ask that? Because Victoria's family was ashamed of me and Mommy. Uncle Marcus said so. I just wondered if you thought I wasn't good enough either. That night, Mom called me in tears. I didn't realize how this looked to Jake. I was so focused on Marcus's opportunities that I forgot about that sweet boy's feelings. You were right to protect him. Meanwhile, Marcus was working hard to rebuild his relationship with Jake. He started small, showing up for soccer games, helping with homework, taking Jake out for ice cream after school. Slowly, the easy friendship they'd once shared began to return. Uncle Marcus want to see something cool, Jake asked one Saturday afternoon. He led us to his room and pulled out a box from under his bed. Inside were all the pictures and mementos from their relationship. Camping photos, ticket stubs from baseball games, drawings Jake had made of the two of them. I saved everything, Jake explained. Even when I was mad, I couldn't throw them away. I kept hoping you'd remember how much fun we used to have. Marcus picked up a photo of the two of them roasting marshmallows on their last camping trip. I never forgot, buddy. I just got confused about what was important, but I promise you that will never happen again. Really, even if you meet another girlfriend? Marcus ruffled Jake's hair. Especially then. Any woman who doesn't love my nephew isn't worth my time. 3 months after the broken engagement, Marcus surprised us both. I've been thinking, he said during one of our Sunday family dinners. I want to plan something special for Jake's 13th birthday. Something big to make up for all the time I lost. You don't have to make up for anything, Jake said. You're here now, that's all I wanted. But Marcus was determined. He planned an elaborate camping and fishing trip, just the two of them, to Jake's favorite state park. They spent 4 days hiking, fishing, telling stories around the campfire, and rebuilding their bond. When they returned, Jake was glowing with happiness. Mom, Uncle Marcus remembered everything: my favorite fishing spot, the ghost stories we used to tell, even how I like my hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Marcus looked more relaxed and genuinely happy than I'd seen him in over a year. We talked about everything, he told me later. About the engagement, about Victoria, about how sorry I am for hurting him. That kid has the biggest heart, then he forgave me completely. He loves you, I said simply. He always did, even when you couldn't see it. I know that now, and I know something else too. You're an amazing mother, Sarah. The way you stood up for him, the way you put his feelings first even when everyone was against you. Jake is lucky to have you. The real test came when Marcus started dating again 6 months later. He met Emma, a teacher at Jake's school, during a parent-teacher conference. She was kind, down to earth, and most importantly, she genuinely enjoyed spending time with Jake. I like her, Jake announced after their first family dinner together. She's funny, and she didn't try to pretend I wasn't here like Victoria did. Plus, she knows more about baseball than Uncle Marcus does. Emma laughed. I grew up with 3 brothers. Baseball was survival in my house. Watching Marcus with Emma, I could see the difference immediately. He was himself, relaxed, genuine, not trying to impress anyone or be someone he wasn't. Emma didn't care that he drove a Honda instead of a BMW, or that he worked at a smaller law firm. She cared that he was kind, loyal, and devoted to his family. This feels right, Marcus told me one evening after Emma had gone home. With Victoria, I was constantly performing, trying to be worthy of her world. With Emma, I can just be myself. And Jake. Marcus smiled. Emma asked if Jake could help her plan a surprise birthday party for me. She said any party planning should include the most important person in my life. On Marcus's 33rd birthday, the 3 of them, Marcus, Emma, and Jake, surprised me with dinner at our favorite family restaurant. It wasn't fancy or expensive, but it was filled with laughter and love. Thank you, Marcus said to me as we watched Jake show Emma how to properly dip French fries in a milkshake. For what? For not giving up on me. For protecting Jake when I couldn't see straight. For showing me what really matters. I squeezed his hand. That's what family does. We protect each other even from ourselves sometimes. As I looked around the table at my brother, my son, and the woman who might become part of our family, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. The road had been difficult, painful at times, but we'd found our way back to what mattered most. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Sometimes standing your ground is the greatest gift you can give to everyone involved. 1 year later, Marcus and Emma got engaged. This time, things were completely different. Instead of a formal announcement, Marcus called me first. Sarah, I need to ask you something important. He said, his voice nervous but excited. I'm going to propose to Emma next week, but before I do, I wanted to make sure you and Jake approve. You're the most important people in my life, and your opinion matters more than anything. I felt tears in my eyes. Marcus, if Emma makes you happy and treats Jake well, then you have our blessing. She does make me happy, and she loves Jake almost as much as I do. Actually, I was hoping Jake might help me with the proposal. Emma mentioned wanting to learn how to fish, and I thought maybe the 3 of us could go to the lake where Jake and I always camp. I could propose there with Jake as my witness. The proposal was perfect. Jake later told me every detail with sparkling eyes. Uncle Marcus was so nervous he almost dropped the ring in the water, but Emma said yes, and then she hugged me first before she hugged him. She said she wasn't just marrying Uncle Marcus, she was gaining the coolest nephew in the world. When Emma and Marcus planned their wedding, she surprised me by asking 13-year-old Jake to be the ring bearer. I don't care about tradition, she said. He's Marcus's best friend. He belongs here. The guest list was pure Hart family Emma's colleagues, longtime neighbors. No business show-offs, no status games. The ceremony at Emma's community center felt warm and real with Jake helping decorate and Emma promising in her vows to love him as family. Jake's speech left everyone teary. Uncle Marcus was my hero. I thought I lost him. But heroes find their way back. Emma, thank you for helping him remember. Later, Marcus pulled me aside. A year ago, I wanted to impress strangers. Tonight, I'm surrounded by people who love me. This matters. 6 months later, Marcus and Emma bought a home with a bedroom just for Jake. Your family, Marcus told him. Family always has a place. Now, 2 years after that awful engagement party invite, our bond is stronger than ever. Marcus is happy, Jake is thriving, and I have a sister-in-law who understands love's true meaning. Sometimes the best way to protect someone you love is to stand firm even if you stand alone.